Jim, as you fall out of your chair, I think I got that on the recording. Hey, everybody,
Excellent.
welcome to Deploy on Friday. I'm your host, John, with Jim. Jim, how was your week?
Yeah, really good until I fell out of my chair. Just
Yeah,
flipped
I
the.
wanted to hit record. I wish I'd caught you there. Sorry. For folks who
You missed
were
it.
just catching the recording here, Jim almost fell out of his chair. So I was like trying to press record as fast as I could.
Yeah. Everything was going
Awesome.
well to that point. So yeah.
Yes.
How
How's
about
the
you?
week going?
Yeah. Just plugging away at things. A few issues here and there.
Yeah, that's software.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have been good with us. We've been busy on the sort of front end side of the house, the song and dance that is marketing to a certain extent,
Yeah.
and also doing webinars and a variety of other activities around that. We've had blog posts, we've had announcements, we've had a whole bunch of things. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun actually this week. Lots of news and awesome stuff to get into. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Webpage is unchanged, although the graphic itself, I was investigating this graphic. Did you know that this graphic actually is entirely an SVG? This is
I did
not
know that.
a GIF,
Yeah.
a movie.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I researched into this, and it actually utilizes a technology under the covers. I think it's called, oh, what is it called? It's called, hang on, I'll look it up here right now. It's called Picma, I think it's called, or something like that. Oh, I can't remember now. Oh, this is gonna bug me. Um, God, this is like right on the spot here. There's a name for it, and
Yeah.
it's made by a certain organization, and I'm trying to find out where it is. Give me one second. I'm gonna
Yeah.
look at the script
Take your
right
time.
now.
No, I remember
Sorry,
hearing a lot about it
it's only everyone
when
watching this here.
Yeah. No, I remember everyone talking about it when we first brought it out and how it wasn't a GIF and it was actually in the page and an SVG and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So let me just so this is built by a Lottie is the name. So let me just bring this up here. So Lottie and Lottie Files is the website. So lottiefiles.com. This is what it's based on. And what they do is they provide these really cool, lightweight, and scalable animations for your website. So this is all based on SVG, and so you get super nice fidelity. And this is what we based it on. So this animation here, just in case folks were wondering, what is that made out of? It's not a GIF. It's not a tumor. It's not a GIF. It is based on a thing called Lottie, and I saw this earlier. We've never mentioned it, but it was something I wanted to talk about briefly, just because I thought it was really cool. So there you go.
Hmm.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Took a while to find that, but there you go. So we've had a lot of updates on the website. We've had a bunch of blog articles that have gone live recently. So Andy continues his exploration into a world without of deployments without automation now. Before it was without tenants, and now it's without automation. So how deployments with physical branches would look without automations. Obviously, this is talking about tenants, but this is without automation. And so basically, Andy keeps making the case like, look, you have a lot to appreciate when it comes to tenants and tenanted deployments. And so the world without tenants, it's kind of like a world without zinc, that old Simpsons reference. So a common tenanted deployment scenario for physical locations, basically this is where you're deploying to point of sale systems or maybe branch locations, etc., for a large financial institution, as Andy rightly points out. Over 200 branches, you would have to basically travel to each location, as he rightly points out, or have the branch staff run the updates, which obviously invokes a lot of trust complications. Remote installation, okay, what about scripts, et cetera, et cetera? It's a nightmare. So, I think there's some justification to be made for using tenants and tenanted deployments and all the good things there. So that is definitely an article worth checking out. If you're wanting to talk to your higher ups or folks who are making decisions around purchasing software and you're looking to purchase potentially Octopus Deploy, I don't know, and because you like the idea of tenanted deployments, you can send articles like this to those folks and find out more about why those things matter. Moving on to some of the videos that we've been publishing recently. So earlier this morning, we actually hosted a webinar. My Kit and myself hosted continuous deployment configuration for Kubernetes with Octopus Deploy, where we basically talked about a whole bunch of things. This went live just on YouTube 3 hours ago. And then Bob Walker and I did a lap around the 2023.3 release. So we basically kicked the tires, so to speak, on everything that's new and improved relative to our latest release, which is available on our What's New page. So we basically brought up this page and went through each feature and kind of kicked the tires and showed demos of that. So that's basically the video that you see here, which is yeah, we were really excited about a lot of stuff that were mentioned there, and so that's why we decided to highlight those things. So yeah, good stuff, as they say. Moving on to some of the other news, our friends over at BuildKite. BuildKite, I think folks know this. I'm rather in love with BuildKite. I like them a lot, and they're a CI solution. If you haven't seen BuildKite, they're super performant, super scalable. They've got some really really nice features, and they've got a slick design as well. I love their marketing. They recently announced the acquisition of a package management solution called Package Cloud. So they acquired Package Cloud recently. And so they're going to bring this. This is their press release. You can go through this if you need. But basically, BuildKite's trying to improve their scenarios by acquiring this and making it a little bit better. So definitely something worth noting. And congrats to them for the acquisition. I think that's awesome news. I always like a scrappy company from Aussie making it as we are, sort of thing. And speaking of BuildKite, they have a bunch of blog posts that they've written recently, including this one called "Continuous Compliance and Governance in CI/CD." So I know that security matters a lot to you, Jim. I know you think about it all the time. Oh wait, that's Jim Berger, our security person. I'm kidding. So,
That's Jim.
but security, yes, exactly. So security is very, very important, especially in CI/CD pipelines. SolarWinds comes to mind, right? So a perfect example of why compliance and governance matters, right? You cannot trust all aspects of your pipeline. You have to always check and recheck and make sure you have compliance and governance inside of those. So this article, which was written by Mel, who's an Octopus fan, she basically wrote about how there are a variety of aspects around your CI/CD pipeline that you need to consider. So there's a bunch of things that you can take a look at relative to this, but essentially you have to ask the question like, okay, yes, we trust our build server. Yes, we maybe trust Octopus. The connections between them, are they secure? Where are we grabbing our creds from? How are we deploying? Where are we deploying? Do we trust the end of the pipe? Things like that. So these and other issues are brought to bear in her article. And so when she talks about this is more along the lines of DevSecOps. So, she cites the DORA 2022 State of DevOps report. But this is, to me, DevSecOps, where basically you're looking at all aspects of the pipeline. And yeah, it's something to be wary of. And mentioning shift left, of course, bring the power of security back into the hands of developers. So for those who don't know, shift left, that means basically moving it closer and closer towards the development team, into the practitioners, the folks who are actually performing the coding, etc. Shift right is the opposite, which is more automation systems, etc. It's that sort of metaphorical view. Thoughts on sort of compliance and governance? Is it a snooze fest for you, or do you care about it?
I've seen it done really well sometimes, but yeah, it's often when it shifts left, right? I don't get super excited about
Yes.
it, I've got to admit. But it helps. It helps
Yes.
sometimes
That's
capture
fair.
stuff.
I know
Yeah.
it's a very indicting statement and question I just asked you, right? Do you care
Yeah,
about
yeah.
security at all?
Yeah, yeah. I think I danced
Yeah,
around
of
it pretty
course.
well.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously the challenges here, there's always going to be like good, fast, and pick one of them. What is it? Good, fast, cheap. Pick two. So speed versus security. So if you're putting up barriers, not for a bad reason, but for good reasons, if you're isolating systems that may put an encumbrance upon your team to establish API keys, etc.
Yeah.
Fragmented tooling. This can happen a lot. Human error. Yeah, we've always been there. Open source contributions. This is something that is very, very hard. So if you're taking dependencies on libraries, sometimes people don't get dependency. Semver gets wrong, for example. You take a dependency and you're like, oh, no breaking changes. It's not major. And then you discover later on there are breaking changes. And so those things can happen. Managing roles and responsibilities. and automation isn't the silver bullet you think it is. These are all good points. And I think these are some of the things that I think about, certainly when considering pipelines relative for CI/CD. These are all aspects you want to try and either mitigate or think about carefully. Human error is definitely something that I try and minimize whenever I can. That's why you try and automate things. And then the strategies around this is use version control code-based configuration where possible. So this speaks to infrastructure as code. This speaks to things like use YAML or use description language for this. Make sure that's based on a code repository. Generate and store immutable artifacts, audit trails, metadata, and logs. Gee, that sounds a lot like Octopus, eh, Jim?
It does.
You have a lot of those capabilities. Use standardized security practices and tools. Don't reinvent the wheel. So use secrets manager like Vault, which we integrate with, by the way. Sneak is a very good tool for doing code scans, etc. Utilize static code analysis tools. Make sure that you at least make sure you try at least pretend that you care. When it comes to your coding, use some tools there. Dedicated package managers such as Package Cloud, that's a recent acquisition, and sign Git commits, including automatically generated commits with OIDC. Gee, OIDC, where have I heard that before? Oh, that's right, in our Octopus roadmap. That is on our roadmap as well. Sorry, I know you're rolling your eyes, Jim, but this is important, right? So, create secure boundaries for CI/CD workflows and pipelines. This is very important, and I think this speaks to what happened with SolarWinds to a certain extent, right? So I think it's very important that we care about these things. So anyways, great article out, and that is at the BuildKite blog.
Yeah, we've got some great stuff coming in that space.
Yes. Friends over at JetBrains have published 2023.5.4 of TeamCity. TeamCity is, I think, one of the most popular CI solutions that we support, meaning a lot of people who use TeamCity tend to use Octopus and vice versa. So this is a update that they posted for their on-prem solution, and basically you can go through the upgrade notes if you want, and you can take a look at what's new, but this is definitely just putting on your radar there. Be aware that the latest of that is now available. And in addition to that, they are hosting a webinar with Octopus Insider and friend of Octopus, Jeffrey Palermo. He'll be talking with Khalid at TeamCity or JetBrains around CI/CD pipelines with .NET and TeamCity. And so this is a webinar that's coming up on October 3rd. You can check out if you're wanting to learn more about how to go about configuring these pipelines. I'm imagining they're going to talk a little bit about NuGet, possibly. They'll possibly talk about other tools around .NET, static code analysis tools, possibly deployments with maybe a tool like Octopus, perhaps. There's lots of tools that you can use. And so this is something worth checking out, a webinar on October 3rd, and that's at the TeamCity blog. Passkeys are generally available. All GitHub.com users can now register a passkey to sign in without a password. Are you familiar with passkeys?
I am. I'm not aware that GitHub was offering them now, though.
Yes, they seem to be everywhere these days. I mean, passkeys are pretty popular. Apple supports them. There's the FIDO Alliance as well. And passkey authorization is pretty important. It's like a password replacement, essentially. And so you can utilize a variety of techniques and capabilities for this. And I'm a huge fan of this as well as other things like password managers, etc., generating passwords, etc. So, anyways, GitHub has announced that all users can now register a passkey to sign in without a password. So there you go.
I haven't actually used any passkeys anywhere yet. It's
okay.
a good opportunity to start. Yeah.
So the launch was in July, and this obviously kind of dovetails from the two-factor authentication that they added at the requirement, obviously for the end of 2023. And so they talk about getting started. Passkeys are a bit of a thing that you have to kind of work out a little bit. The FIDO Alliance has some really good docs on this, for example. So if you take a look at passkeys up on their website, it talks a little bit about what these things are, how they work, et cetera, why you should use them, what problem do they solve, etc. So, but they go into this a little bit as well. And then you can register these using your account security settings. So this is for anyone who's on GitHub, you'll see these there. It's the same place you'd go for your GPG and other certs and things like that. So, yeah. And what we've learned building support for passkeys are a relatively new credential type, and we've learned a lot on how to make them easy for large communities. Here we'll share what we've learned. So not every platform is passkey ready, but they can still be supported. So we found that Linux and Firefox users struggled with passkeys, to use passkeys, and not strong support there. There's APIs apparently that are missing. Make it easy to upgrade compatible security keys. So a lot of security keys already registered at GitHub. Many of them are hardware keys, so those sort of like those dongles that you see kicking around. Those are Those were very popular back in the late '90s, early 2000s. I
Yeah.
remember those RSA keys. So that's a challenge. Ramp up enrollment to passkeys is slow. So I guess their metrics are telling them that it's a little bit slower. And then advancements across the industry. We couldn't ship it alone, blah, blah, blah. Folks at Apple, Google, Microsoft are all adding better support for passkeys. So that's part of that alliance that I was talking about earlier is that, we need universal agreement across most of the major platforms. And so that
Mm.
helps there. So passkeys are now generally available. So get started, get using them. Terraform fork gets renamed Open Tofu and joins the Linux Foundation. So this requires a little bit of background explaining here. I don't know if you're a fan of tofu. It's okay, I guess. But
Look,
anyways,
okay, it's generous, I think.
taste. That's
I
right.
don't hate it. I don't
So
hate it.
that's another indicting statement. I don't
Yeah.
hate it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's not my first choice. It's not my second choice, but there you go. So OpenTF, which is at opentf.org, it's been redirected now. There you go. So it's now at opentofu.org. So OpenTofu, or what was formerly known as OpenTF, was the community's response to a license change that HashiCorp made to a number of its products, namely Terraform, around its use of the Mozilla license, changing that to the BSL or Business Software License. And as a result, the community that endorses this decided we are going to take a fork of the current code base for Terraform and build on top. And then they are also going to make sure that they're backwards compatible. So this is the site that talks about their sort of, what they are, who they, why they're doing what they're doing, etc. Anyways, they renamed, if in case you were following this and you were thinking it was called OpenTF, it's now OpenTofu. And incidentally, they have also taken a step further. This is part of the Linux Foundation. And then the project announced would be applying for entries to the CNCF. So that one was actually a surprise to me. I didn't realize that this is what they were going to do. So, anyways, yeah, there you go, Open Tofu. So you might wonder also, why would they call it Open Tofu as opposed to OpenTF? I guess they say later on they were worried, not worried, but they just wanted to make sure that there was no possibility of trademark infringement. So the TF, getting rid of TF as an homage, I guess, or a reference to Terraform. Calling it tofu, they can, I guess, make the justification that it's just, a name. So, but there you go. So there you go. It's now called Open Tofu, and we will track this and keep an eye on it as we go. So we
When you
utilize
said,
Terraform quite a bit at Octopus, don't we?
yeah, we do a lot. A lot of our clients use heaps of it as well.
Yes.
When you said they're going to be backwards compatible, do you mean like they're going to remain compatible with Terraform?
That's one of their design goals. So that
Yeah.
as Terraform evolves, they will evolve with it. So
Right.
yeah.
Full on. They mean
So
business, don't they?
yeah, I guess they do. Well, yeah, it's kind of a wait and see at this point. I think. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of the direction that they take. So you can read more
Cool
about this at
website. They got a
opentofu.org.
logo. I mean,
I know. I'm not so sold on the tofu though. That is whatever.
that
Anyways,
picture they had on their blog post might have been the tastiest looking bowl of tofu that I've ever seen, but still doesn't look that good.
I know. Whatever. Anyways, top 5 best continuous deployment software in 2023. This was up on the Tech Times. I've never seen this site before, but it came across my radar. I don't mention this because of the fact that down near here we are cited. And I don't think it's by order of 1 is best and 5 is worst. I think it's just top 5, or I guess 5. So I mention this because I'm trying to make the case, and I think it's kind of easy to understand. Like, you make this case repeatedly, like use deployment software. Please don't just chuck it over the wire. Please don't just use a script. Please don't hit next finish. Use a script. Like use something more than just a script. Use the deployment process. And so the reason why I cite this is just to say, look, yes, Octopus is mentioned, and so are others, but just use something. Like, don't just throw it over the wall. Is, I guess, the argument I would make. And I think we're still fighting or wrestling with that. Is like deployment is like the last mile in a lot of developers' head. When, as we know, in the DevOps, it's a Mobius strip for a reason, right? You come back after monitoring and observing, and things like that. So I think that folks tend to forget that. I mean, a lot of developers just chuck things over the wall a lot of the times. I've been guilty of that. So I mention this
Yeah.
just because I want to make sure that people take this stance. So
Yeah.
Armory mentioned there, Argo's in here, Reworks, there's Argo, Harness, and Octopus. I wish I'd used our white one, but I guess that's a. Oh, they took a screenshot. Our logo is literally on our. If you do a search for Octopus Deploy and you search for logo, we have a brand page where you can grab all the logos. So you can grab all the SVG logos. So why do they have to take a screenshot? Anyways, I digress. But yeah, definitely check this out. If you need some justification, just point to an article like this and say, look, we've got to get on this. We've got to start doing better relative to our deployments. Do you ever fight? Do you ever fight those arguments with your colleagues in the development space? Like, why would I automate my deployments? I guess they know, right? Or I guess
Yeah, they know.
most people
I
see
mean,
it
like
as
you
like,
said,
oh, it's CI.
yeah, like you said, I've been guilty of it in the past, so I get where people are coming from. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
fair.
I think we've come to a point now where there's so much good software around to do it. You'd be foolish not to, right?
Yep. And wrapping things up, TypeScript Origins, the documentary. I have not watched this, but this came across my radar just recently. I don't know what this is. I guess this is a documentary on the creation of TypeScript. So I guess they interviewed a whole bunch of folks, including Anders Heilsberg. Yeah, there's Anders. And a bunch of others talking about why they built TypeScript, what was the process by which they went. Is that Eric Gamma? I think it is. About why they went through the process of building it out. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this later. This is up on YouTube, so just search for TypeScript the documentary. So I think they list in here. Oh, my apologies. That's not Eric Gamma, is it? I thought it was. I thought that was Eric Gamma. I saw. Anyways, whatever. So definitely worth checking out. That's TypeScript Origins, the documentary. I'll watch this with great interest later on.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, Jim, that wraps up another week.
another week in the can.
There you go.
Easy.
No, back to back to the salt mines with you. Go back to debugging.
uh,
You know. Everything okay?
I've,
Or like,
I've
do we need to
fall on the
send
floor
an
over here.
emotional care package? Yes, yes. I cannot wait until I can ask you, like, hey, because you keep harping on this thing, like, yeah, the stuff we're building isn't shipped yet, but it's going to be shipped, and I can't wait till you can start talking about it publicly because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's pretty awesome what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'll have to have a chat to the product people. We're going to start reaching out to some customers about it soon, so we'll see what we can do.
You heard it here first. There you go. All right. Well, thanks again, Jen, for co-hosting. And if you happen to stumble across an article or news story that you see, let us know in the comments. In the meantime, feel free to like and subscribe. And until next week, on behalf of Jim, see you. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next